On some teams.
Absolutely.
On some teams.
I don't know, something like Schwarber's leading off in Philly.
Well, but he's not. I don't consider him their best player. Period.
Well, Harper's batting what, third or fourth?
Yeah,
so
but they're a very unique team.
Yeah.
Trey Turner can't field the ball. We don't even have to talk about that. He's their liability at shortstop.
Oh, come on. You take Trey Turner in a heartbeat.
He led baseball in errors last year.
I don't give a damn. He also hit 27 home runs. I know. And stole a lot of bases and had a lot of RBIs. The hell with the errors. Give me Trey Turner right now.
Big Brett Wisely guy.
Yeah, you can talk about errors. Like we didn't just watch Marco Luciano and Brett Wisely and Casey Schmidt. Trey Turner. I will take him right now.
That's the
Pay him
rhetoric in
$400
Philly.
million to bring him here.
Telling you what
the shortstops we're watching right now, he could have an error every game as long as he's hitting. Let's go to Stephen Oakland. Stephen Oakland, what's happening?
You missed like a month.
Hey, Anthony. One of the comments that really stuck out to me was that you mentioned history. One of the things that I noticed about the Warriors in terms of our history is that, we play horrible when Draymond isn't playing, and like Fitz said, if Draymond was playing, we would have been a much better team. Andrew Wiggins was an all-star starting player, but a lot of people don't realize the history that a K-pop artist was the reason why he got the fan votes to be a starter. And also a lot of people don't notice our history in terms of our splits with playoff teams, but they ignore the fact from November 8th to November 22nd, we played the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Thunder 4 times in a 4-game stretch, and we lost all those games when we were one of the worst teams at the beginning of the season. So looking at our history, I wanted you to answer, what is it about our history that gives you promise and optimism for the future?
Well, part of that history of that Minnesota Thunder sequence you're talking about was Draymond choking Rudy Gobert in the first game and getting ejected. And by the way, getting Klay Thompson ejected at the same time. Remember that?
That was the second game. Remember the first game, he started talking trash to Anthony Edwards, and he started cooking. And I don't believe Steph Curry played in that game, right?
My mom calls that the drag, where he choked and dragged him. She goes, that reminded me of you and your brother growing up.
Yeah, and then the Thunder game was the first of those devastating Thunder late game issues where they let
three.
Well, the foul up 3 was OKC. The game he's talking about was when they let Chet do the turnaround over
and
Wiggins.
To CP3 blew the switch.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of games last season that they could have had back, and probably should have had a 4 or 5 game better record. I think your general point is you're asking what the history tells us about like next season. Yeah, I mean, it probably says that the dynasty's over, and like I don't think they're vaulting back into contention. I think Paul George would make things more interesting. It's more realistic, but the truth is they're probably entering a little bit of a transition phase, slowly out of the Steph Curry era.
But if you say that the dynasty's over, we don't know. Like, we'll see 3-4 years from now. But if we were to say they never win anything of significance again, they don't advance in the playoffs out of the first or second round, what did kill the dynasty?
Age. Injuries and age, I think. I mean, it's just like, like Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets are just like, it's their time. They have all mid-prime players. Look at what 2 years ago they beat the Celtics in the finals, and that felt surprising at the time. But part of the reason they beat them was because it was like, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and that core is not quite ready. They don't have like necessarily the help or the battle scars that they needed. Even if the Warriors get Paul George, or like Steph has it still like really holds off. His late prime and is still like a guy next season. If they somehow got through the West, which, like that is a bear to get through that. Yep. And they got this Celtics team we just saw in the finals, like their best players, the Warriors' best players, the players they're trying to build around, I think have just aged out while the better young players in the league have aged into their mid primes. Like that's why the dynasty has ended, right? I mean, there's like smaller move. I mean, if I would say like, maybe if they drafted the 2nd overall pick, the 7th overall pick, and the 14th overall pick collectively better, maybe there would be more of a realistic extension of the dynasty. If instead of James Wiseman, they landed Anthony Edwards in that draft, or
right.
Like, they had Jordan Poole, who was ascending, and I know we want to put it all on Jordan Poole, but like there is another, like, yes, age is absolutely undeniable. Father Time, undefeated. There was some self-sabotage simultaneously.
For sure. But I mean, that's part of it.
It's just never going away. It's just.
Are you asking about the punch?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. He's trying to tiptoe around it. I know,
Guru. I'm talking about the punch.
Well, Guru always says not to go Hawaiian on you, but let's talk about the punch. It's a good. It's
a great line.
Good. It's one of his best lines ever.
It is.
Yeah, Slater's looking like Hawaiian punch. I didn't tweet that.
I'll just say this: if that didn't happen, I don't think they win the title that year.
No, but they had something going with a young player, and then immediately had to staple a first-round pick and get him the hell out of Dodge. The guy was tripping over himself. Look, he's culpable as well, but like what he turned into, he was going like Batman Robin, and all of a sudden like lost all his superpowers.
Yeah, I mean, Draymond Green has had some culpability in how the last 2 seasons have gone. There's no question about that. And if the suspensions and the punch and all that hadn't have happened over the last few years, maybe they advance a little further in the playoffs. Maybe they make the playoffs this season. But in general, to your overall question of like why is the dynasty fading, it's because they're fading.
That I agree with.
Let's take RJ in Fairfield. It's been a long time since we heard from RJ. Happy belated Father's Day, RJ, and you as well, Anthony Slater. RJ in Fairfield, what's happening? By the way, Sacramento Kings, apparently, I'm not going to read this one because it's, never mind. RJ in Fairfield, what's happening? We may have had this guy on the show the other day.
What's up, Anthony? Hey, I've got a question, man. Looking at the Warriors season last year, they need a lot of help. I mean, a lot of help. And I think there's pieces in the Sacramento Kings bench such as Kevin Huerter, Trey Lyles, Donovan Mitchell, take Harrison Barnes. Do you see a potential trade with the Warriors? Because, I mean, I ain't going to lie. The Kings could use, what's his name, Wiggins. We could use Moody. So I really want those guys. And do you see a potential trade with them for the Sacramento Dynasty Killers?
I mean, the Kings are aggressive right now, and the Warriors are.
I love RJ.
They did, potentially. They
didn't put Lonnie Walker right next to him. I mean, come on, really? They want a playing game.
You're right, because Warriors probably would have done the same thing as the Kings and walked into New Orleans and got
destroyed.
And then what happened? What happened to those same Pelicans? They went into Oklahoma City and got waxed. I think the Thunder was whacking.
Austin Reeves destroyed the Warriors the year before.
Right.
Yes.
So, I mean, come on.
To his overall point, I think the Kings and Warriors could make an intriguing trade partner. There was a level of Sacramento is like really looking around right now. Like they feel like they really need rotation upgrades. Herter's clearly been available. Yep. Barnes, both of them were very available with Davion Mitchell at the deadline for Siakam. They were closer than the Warriors were to any type of Siakam move. They, from my understanding, were really close to a Siakam move.
Siakam and Sabonis, that's interesting.
Yeah. And so like the guys he mentioned, a Huerter, a Wiggins, even theoretically a Trey Lyles, could be obtainable. And I think the names he mentioned, like a Wiggins, a Moody, like those are guys that the Kings would be interested in. And Wiggins does a lot of stuff I do think the Kings really need, which is like, defense kind of, it's like they would view that, I would assume, as an upgrade over Harrison Barnes. But, do you guys think
I don't want
Kevin Huerter, a Barnes, the Lyles, like moves the needle enough for the Warriors?
Absolutely not.
Unless they're going to get flipped somewhere else, I
don't see that.
No, I'm out. I like Trey Lyles, though. Like, individually, I would think that Trey Lyles is a nice fit.
Shooting bigger rebounds.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I like him individually.
I thought he was big. I thought Sacramento didn't go to it enough in that Game 7 against the Warriors a couple seasons ago when they went to that small lineup. And in Game 6, Trey Lyles was cooking. They kept Looney on the perimeter. They were going pick and pop. They were bombing threes left and right. I thought the Warriors were in trouble in Game 7, and then 50 happened from Stephen Curry. Let's go to Malik in Union City. Malik, what's happening?
Hey, how's it going, fellas? Good morning. Hey, Mr. Slater.
Yep.
This has been a big point of contention with Warriors fans for probably the past 3 years, and it's getting a big man. Something concerning that I haven't heard among the Paul George and Klay Thompson, rhetoric and rumors is anything about any of the available or rumored to be available bigs and trades or free agency like Clay Capella, Brooke Lopez, Walker Kessler, things like that. So can you tell me a little bit about what the Warriors' plans for a center would be if they're thinking about trading for anybody, if not, anything linked, and if they believe TJD is a starting center, hopefully a backup center, but what their thought process is on TJD.
Yeah, as far as TJD goes, I mean, what they love about Trace Jackson Davis is he's making $1.8 million next year, and he's under contract control for 3 more seasons. So into his age 26 season, he'll only be making 2.4. So I think there's a lot of internal hope and belief, that he is, starting backup. We'll see. Depends on what Draymond plays, but Trace Jackson Davis can give a good NBA rotation 25 to 30 minutes. He can rim protect. He can score efficiently. What Trace Jackson Davis doesn't give them is a stretch big option. And I do think they need and have kicked around the idea of a stretch big. Now, I don't think from my understanding, they don't want to pay big money for a big. Right. They don't want to have the big salary slot. Obviously, right now, if it was a Paul George, you have one big money thing that you can do. They've mostly tried to stay cheap in the big man realm. And this goes back to the Durant era, right? The Zazas, the JaVales. They think they can get good center production at the cheap. Now, I think part of where they failed the last 2 years, where they didn't fail in the championship season, was they got Otto Porter on the minimum. And sometimes big doesn't have to be a center, right? That was a guy who could rebound and he could shoot the three and he could fit lineups. And then they tried with JaMychal Green. It didn't work. They tried with Dario Saric. Looked like it was a really good signing. Didn't really work. They'll probably try again on the minimum market. You mentioned the name Brook Lopez. I've thought that's an intriguing potential trade candidate that's maybe lower down the pecking order of what they're trying to do. But, could it Andrew Wiggins for Brook Lopez?
I like Brook Lopez.
I do like him too.
But I don't know how much he's moving the needle. I do. I've always liked him more and I can't unsee the Warriors just absolutely cooking him that one Saturday night.
Our boy Tim in Raleigh, North Carolina, always calls in the biggest Kamika fan out there. He brought up a name, and I'll go back to the draft when Jordan Poole was drafted, and Alan Smileykeach. And Slater, you'll remember this. As the 40th pick came around, or the 41st pick, there was a lot of bull.
They were at the Cannabis Club.
Talk about not moving the needle.
Talk about not moving the needle. But for Warrior fans, Bo's a name that always pops up. A cheap shooting big. I'm saying, man. You brought up the cheap stuff. That's a guy who you can get on the cheap. I don't know if trust me, it's not moving the needle.
I was going to say, he was on the Suns last year. I don't know if anybody remembered because he was barely playing. But he was on that Suns team that got swept.
The only thing we remember is his picture for Media Day.
I mean, Drew Eubanks was playing over him last year. It's just not happening, I don't think. And I don't mean it's not the Warriors aren't necessarily trying. It's just Bull is not going to be an impact player in the league, I don't think.
Yeah, we agree. What about a reunion with James Wiseman?
He's available. I am curious where James goes this summer. Because I do think there's upside still in there. But if you're asking really about the Warriors, there's probably a little bit too much personal history. If I was advising James Wiseman, I'd say don't go chasing your ghosts.
Yeah, don't stay away. I'm with you.
I mean, go to a fan base that doesn't have.
Don't come here.
So let me ask you this one.
Wiseman.
What did they do with GP2?
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
I think, number one, he's potential of a trade building chip from a salary perspective. If you need that money to get a deal done, him or Looney's at this point, obviously that's movable. So either of him or Looney could be traded. But I also think they view he's still win available, and I understand that's he played 44 games last year. He still can do a lot of stuff. He was one of their best plus minus guys last year. All the lineups he's in, when he's on the court, it's oh man, this game is moving differently, right. And they need point of attack defense.
Yep.
Particularly in the West. Let's say again you play a Mavericks team in the playoffs next year. If Gary Payton's healthy, he's getting a shift on Kyrie. He's getting a shift on Luka. So if you have him around at $9 million, you just hope he's healthy at the right time, and you play him in spurts. But you also aren't unwilling to trade him if you need to.
Right. Let's play this song from Stephen A. Smith. We'll get back to the lines in a second. Anthony Slater live in studio. Terrific job for these 2 hours here. Stephen A. Smith, a name that you're familiar with, Anthony, when you were out in Oklahoma City. Here's Stephen A. Smith on First Take about Kevin Durant.
Pay no attention to what Phoenix is saying. They want out of Kevin Durant right now. They want out of Kevin Durant right now. Also, Houston doesn't want Kevin Durant. Ime Udoka may want him. But organizationally, they know that they are not there yet. So their plans are more long range. And they would prefer a Devin Booker, who they know it's a slim chance they'll get, but that would be their preference.
I don't know if I could take Stephen A. seriously.
I love
when it
the way
comes to
he delivers
sources.
it. It's
the
forget the
delivery's
content.
great.
It's the way he delivers it.
But we've talked to Eddie Johnson. He said KD's going nowhere. Shane Young covers the Suns for Forbes magazine or Forbes. He said KD's not going anywhere. Everything I hear is that KD's not going anywhere, and yet I keep hearing KD. Oh, what about KD? What about KD? I keep hearing he's not available. Anthony Slater.
Yeah, again, from my understanding, like Phoenix, because of how like they've backed themselves into a corner, especially with the Beal deal. Now the second apron dropping on their head, and their lack of assets, and I just think they are still trying to prove to themselves that they can win with this core, even if it's like outside looking in. You're like, yeah, like you, like I just don't see a rebuilding like path for them. And again, from my understanding, is like it does sound like they want to go into the season with Durant, with that core. Obviously hope to try to build around it with the limited tools they have. And if it blows up, then maybe by deadline or something. But again, I wouldn't be too stunned if like a bomb drops and he gets traded to Houston. But like I will say this: I've heard some Houston noise with him, and Woj put out last night the Houston noise, and like he's pretty careful with that stuff. So I assume the question is kind of a little bit Warriors related. I would be stunned if that reunion happened.
And the ship is sailed with Kevin Durant coming here, right? Coming back to the Bay Area.
You would think, it's like I cover another team in Oklahoma City where I've kind of thought that too, but that's the one. I mean, again, that's probably the romantic, like younger beat writer side of me. But like if he's going to do a reunion, I think I'm really going home.
Yeah,
I think that's where he can kind of round out the career. And by the way, would have a pretty solid supporting cast.
No doubt. You're talking about a finals contender. No doubt was SGA company.
The Stephen A. question is the most important, though. Have you ever seen Bonte roll into the Chase Center the way Stephen A. Smith rolls into finals games?
Not even close.
At halftime, he'll be, wandering around with that
finger
like
gunning.
Vince McMahon strut. Yes, to answer your question.
Stop it. Hey, no watermarks on my videos or anything like that. The little ESPN watermark that Stephen A. had walking in, that was too much. He's on another level.
The house that Bonte built is what they're calling Chase Center.
Okay. What's the Oracle now? Does he even go to Giants games?
Oh, no, he goes.
I've been with the first game of the season was when Aaron Judge hit 2 home runs and I gave him a standing ovation.
You know what his nickname is?
Standing O. And then I went to a game, day game with Logan Webb, and they beat the Astros. Okay. But, I'm not going to – I don't got time, man. I got a baby at home.
We might be going tomorrow.
No, I actually have to cancel on that. I have to get a haircut.
Oh, Lubman, you just got dropped on live radio.
Well, I had to get a haircut.
Wait a minute.
I get you a credential.
I would have been able to go. I would have been able to go. I would have got my hair cut earlier, right after the show. However,
butts for candies and nuts.
We have an all-staff meeting tomorrow here at Odyssey at 11 o'clock. So,
Oh, of course, blame the CEO.
I'm going to blame the CEO. I'm going to tell her when he comes in, David Field, you're the reason why I'm not going to Giants Cubs today.
You're the reason I'm stiffing my producer. I'm going to stand behind you with all wide-eyed and sad.
I don't think I would have caved out with you. I went to the bleachers or something.
It's the last time I get you a credential.
Let's go to Charlie in New York City. I'm trying to make it. But the all-staff meeting, man. Got to be there. It's mandatory. Can we do it on Zoom? Maybe we'll do it on Zoom. Charlie in New York. What's up?
Hey, what's up, guys? What's up, Anthony? All these rumors lately with PG-13 and Butler from Miami. I am scared. You know what? If they go into next season, assuming Clay comes back with 4 starters in their mid-30s, why aren't they? Or have you heard anything? Why not maybe package something with the Pelicans for Brandon Ingram, who's a lot younger? He's a 2010 guy. And maybe you can acquire him with some kind of package, obviously with some assets, but with Wiggins, and not have to give up on Kuminga. Or I'm not as crazy about Zach LaVine, but he's younger. These guys in their mid-30s, given a PG-13 a 4-year contract at his age, or Jimmy Butler, I don't like that idea at all. So what about one of these, I guess, quote unquote, lesser stars like Ingram or someone of that ilk?
Yeah, I can go one by one there. To the Levine question, I mean, I think a lot of the league is just really turned off by the contract. He, over the next 3 seasons, is making $43 million, $45 million, $48 million. I believe it's like 3 years, 137, something like that. For a guy who played 25 games last year, knee issues, like, it's to the point, and we reported this about the Kings, who have also been kind of rumored in the Levine world, but that you'd almost need to be incentivized. Like, stuff would have to come with Zach LaVine.
You're stapling things to it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like it would be high risk, potentially high reward. Like, I could hear that argument because, like, if he gets back and he's healthy, he's scoring 25 a game, like, he could jolt you a little bit, but it's risky, and it's particularly risky from a financial perspective. To the Brandon Ingram thing, I mean, I've reported on it, but I get a very lukewarm feeling about, like, the idea of trading for Brandon Ingram with the Warriors, his fit.
What about Zion?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm sure they'd be interested in that.
No, is he going to be on the move? Is there any?
I don't believe so.
David Griffin's not going to do that.
Okay, I
don't think so. Although
a boy can dream.
Like the Pelicans' future feels very in the air. Yep. But it seems to me, especially with the other thing about Brandon Ingram, he's coming like Paul George, saying extension time. He's got one more year left on his deal. It's a big money extension. He is younger. To the overall point that was being made by the caller, I think you would prefer a mid-prime player. You'd prefer Giannis, Anthony Edwards if we're really getting into it. But those aren't not available right now. And the ones that are, the mid-prime ones that are like a Zach LaVine who comes with a contract that looks bad, or an Ingram who I think there's just skepticism that he is that level player. Did you see what Lou Dort did to him in that first game?
Oh, it was nasty.
The torture chamber.
The torture chamber's no joke, man.
Now you got him and Caruso?
No, that's going to be nasty. Did Ingram and Kurt get along well in the FIBA's World Championships?
He just went away from him. He benched him. He, Kurt's still trying to kind of play his style. So get along would probably
stretch. But
at least I don't know enough to say personality wise, but he went if you just coaches tell you a lot with how they deploy their rotations. He completely minimized Brandon Ingram's role and went away from him.
Well, right now we're kind of minimizing Fast Five.